So we're going to get into the insight from the tool resolution now. So yeah, if Lex, if you wouldn't mind. First slide is what we've looked at here is just a range share summary by key retailer. For this, we've focused in on those six categories: brandy and cognac, gin, liqueurs, rum, tequila, vodka, and whiskey. And you can see the shares by each key retailer. Now we've circled a few because perhaps they're interesting opportunities that could be explored. So if we take rum, which is that light blue color in the middle, Tesco has about a 10.7% share of their own range in terms of range architecture versus an average for key retailers of just under 12%. Does that mean Tesco needs to offer some more rums within its spirits category within stores? That's something worth exploring. Similarly, if we look at Morrison's brandy and cognac range forms around 5.2% of their spirits category versus a market which is at 6.4. So again, could Morrison's offer more brandy and cognacs to appeal to Morrison shoppers? And these are all ways that we can look at a range via resolution. We've looked at some norms within the category across those categories that I just described on the previous slide, and just some basic stuff here. So we know spirits are branded. Perhaps the most popular ABV percentages are between 21 and 40%. And we also know that more than half of products in ranging is at between 21s and £40 in terms of RSP. Now, none of that's earth-shattering. You guys in the spirits world will probably be familiar with all that. But what it's worth just bearing in mind that this is what a shopper sees when they're in front of the fixture. These are the norms that impact the shopper and where a lot of the decisions will be made. So the more benefits and attributes you can leverage for those shoppers, the more you can make it easier for them, the more sales will go up. We spent some time looking at whiskey for this case study, and we will drill into that now. And so just starting with some basics of the category, the chart on the left looks at the top 5 whiskey countries based on SKU numbers. And unsurprisingly, Scotland comes in with around 60% of the range. You've then got other well-known countries that produce whiskey, so USA, Ireland, Japan, and others. And the Scotland forming around 60% of the category. One question that could rightly be asked, because that's the share on SKUs that they have, are they generating that in sales? Is the ranging right to deliver 60% of the category? Some SKU numbers are in the top right-hand corner there, and you can see that what we've done is we've had a look at sizes as well. So, for example, if we take single malts, which we've highlighted, one thing we noticed from the research is we looked at single malts, and 96% of single malts, or over 96%, are sold on a 70 cl format. Only 1.6% are sold at a 35 cl. Does that present an opportunity? For example, if you want to drive trial and penetration from new people or new drinkers of single malts, perhaps offering a lower price 35 cl, which is less of an investment for a shopper and a lower percentage of basket spend, might bring new shoppers into the category. And this is one way we can unearth interesting insights from resolution. We also earlier talked about flavour being a trend that's coming into play. And at the moment, in terms of ranging, from a shopper perspective, flavour only forms around 4.5% of the category. So is that an opportunity for whiskey brands and producers to bring more flavour in to encourage more shoppers? What we've also done is we've looked at those top 5 countries by pricing tier, from the blue, which is on the left, which is that sort of 0 to £20 entry price point, to the sort of more super premium above the £61 price mark. And we've circled a few countries which are interesting. So we talked about Ireland, which has about 10% of the category in terms of SKU count, and a growing category as well. Perhaps one area that could be explored is that premium or super premium area, which is what we've circled. There seems to be an underrangement of SKUs within that space. Is that an opportunity for Irish whiskey brands? Similar thing with USA, it's behind Scotland and other countries in that sort of space. But I think the other one I'd like to draw your attention to is Japan. So I know there've been some supply issues, and that may be one reason why there's no entry level brands in with Japanese whiskey. But is that an opportunity for Japanese brands? Offering an entry level product could bring new products into drinking Japanese whiskey, new customers into drinking Japanese whiskey. And it's just an interesting factor that could be explored further, which is a piece of insight that we've generated from Resolution. We've also then mapped those countries by key retailer, and you can see that on this chart. So, unsurprisingly, Scotland dominates. It's what you would expect, and then you can see the other countries by different colours there. We have focused in on just Asda in this case, so with Irish whiskey, because we talked about Irish, and we'll come back to Ireland in later charts. And if you look at the average across key retailers, the average share of SKUs, it forms around 9.4% of categories in terms of share, whereas Asda is at 7.2%. So for Asda shoppers, is there enough Irish whiskey on shelf? Could you add more brands into that space? And could that therefore satisfy those shoppers when they're shopping the range? If we look at other categories within that, sorry, go back one, Lex. If we look at other retailers, Waitrose is another example there, slightly underranged on USA and USA products. So bourbon, perhaps, is there an opportunity for Waitrose? And we can really get under the skin of where sort of ranges are weaker and stronger in terms of current trends. So we talked about the potential for Irish whiskey and using the tool of resolution. We've highlighted four key opportunities, what we believe are four key opportunities that are worth exploring from a shopper perspective. Again, I just want to bring you back to this point. This is how shoppers will see the fixture. So we know Irish whiskey is growing. Last year, according to the Irish spirits industry, exports for Irish whiskey hit 1 billion in 2024, and it's a significant proportion of Irish spirits globally. So we talked about the first potential opportunity is that premium and super premium area, the sort of particularly the £61 plus point. Is that an opportunity for brands to explore that space? We've also talked about Asda. Asda is perhaps behind other key retailers in this space, and could there be an opportunity to improve or increase Asda's range in this area? One area, like with single malts, as we noted with Asda, Morrison's, and Waitrose, don't seem to have a 35 CL in Irish whiskey. That, as we discussed with single malts, it could be a nice way of bringing new shoppers into that category. And then the final thing, we had a look at age, whiskey, the age of whiskies, and that again in those same retailers, there was nothing over the 12 years of age perspective. So again, is that an opportunity for Irish whiskey brands to explore? We can take that down a level as well. So we can look at brand and even SKU level opportunities. So what we've done is we looked at that Irish category and we focused on key brands within that space. And you can see those brands at the top. The two biggest ones you would expect, Bushmills and Jameson's, dominate the fixture. And then there's a few other smaller brands there. And what we've done, we've just highlighted with the yellow circles, even for brands like these, which have probably been around a while, the range architecture suggests there's an opportunity to get more products within there, within these brands. So for Asda, they are perhaps underranged on Jameson's, as are Tesco versus the average traditional top four, which is at 42%. Whereas with Bushmills, Waitrose and Morrison's could be could be retailers to explore, or for the buyers within those retailers to explore whether they've got the ranging right versus what shoppers are buying in the marketplace. So, guys, I'm just going to summarize what we've seen, but that hopefully gives you an idea of the power of resolution. We can really get under that skin of the category, and we can look at it from all the trends which are shaping purchase, both, and that's what's really important, because as going back to what Lex said, a huge proportion of decisions are made in front of the fixture, and that those decisions at point of purchase will, at point of purchase where they pick these products up, will drive spend. So just to recap, we know market pressures are challenging out there, and we know there's a rise with rising inflation and living costs. There's this shift towards eating and drinking at home, and perhaps going out once or twice less in a year in terms of the repertoire of in versus out. Retailers face a challenge from discounters and loyalty. And so anything where you can improve a range for your shoppers, I don't need to tell you buyers that. You buyers who are interested in this, don't think I need to tell you that, but anything you can to do that, to improve the range for those shoppers, to improve the way that your range appeals to your shoppers is going to be seen as positive, whether that's differentiated products, whether it's value, whether it's the ranging proposition, where it's looking at the missions, and that's where resolution can come in. We know that according to Kantar, products which demonstrate consumer benefits or more consumer benefits unlock value. So if you just two benefits unlocks a growth of 6% on spend per occasion, six offers an increase of 10%. So they're really, this is a really important part of getting it right for the shopper. Innovation's important, particularly in the case study around spirits. Excitement around drink. It's what people get when they do go out. So they want to recreate that at home. And half of that is around innovation, but new brands feature in this as well. So innovation is really important in the spirits category from a shopper perspective. And range architecture is worth getting really analyzing range architecture because it can spot opportunities for growth, even in mature categories. So we talked about rum being underrepresented in some key retailers. We also talked about for single malts, potentially the opportunity of introducing smaller sizes. And all of these could represent a way to capture trial and penetration of new shoppers. And finally, I just want to bring it back to Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey is growing. It's around 10% of category in terms of SKUs, and it has this momentum as the industry is talking about, but it's underrepresented in certain areas. Higher price points, aged products, key retailers, and small formats, all of which could be explored further. I'm going to hand back to Lex now, who's going to just sort of finish up the webinar.
Thanks, Dave. That's really useful and interesting insight. And I think it's great to have seen the application in a real life case study. What I want to do really is to kind of wind back a bit, really, so that everyone can understand and just really appreciate more generically how better understanding of attributes can really help. So we've already seen from a retailer's perspective today some real life ways that the ranges could be improved, for example, by looking at range architecture around origin of the products, or in in the case of spirits, or how a category space can potentially be managed if it needs to be managed for the different spirit types. So just kind of bearing in mind that for the buyers out there, they will want some kind of differentiation. Some may want to be heavier on Scottish whiskies than on bourbons or whatever else it would be. But understanding that, understanding your own category versus your competitors' categories really gives you clarity on the differences and where you may gain or lose shoppers. So that's what we've learned today from a retailer's perspective. There's loads of other ways of applying the attribute tool that we talked about and the use of attributes. Now, I've got another example here. So if we looked at Tesco's 6 strategic drivers, which is a document Tesco's produced, and one of the key things that they're looking at there is to have a differentiated brand, and they're quoted as saying their own label products need to become the point of differentiation. So for Tesco suppliers on private label, Tesco buyers, it's really important to measure the points of difference in the category currently, and to understand that, to see where you can implement some points of difference on any innovation, to understand that it's innovation within your category, but also to potentially look outside of your own category and look at other retailers and see what's true innovation. So an example there of what you can do. From a marketeer's perspective, we've seen a couple of examples of how marketeers could potentially strategically drive trial into a category on single malts with a change of formats and having those entry level products and being aware of them. And we've also seen the idea around flavoured whiskey opportunities as an MBD option. But there are many other ways of using attributes to really optimize ranges. And I think that's what I would really kind of say here when marketeers are looking at brand architecture, the products within the brands which make up those brands, are they covering the bases they want to? Are they covering the missions they want to? And do the attributes line up to those missions? So retailers then can see that, can understand that, and are happy to then list those products. And then finally, from a sales and a category perspective, we've shown today how having a clarity at brand level on which retailers are stronger or weaker, depending on the brand that you're working with, gives you very easy sort of way through of just understanding and deciding where the opportunities are. But naturally, you can do this at SKU level. You can do this at any kind of level. You can change and look at pricing or whatever it would be to make sure that you're delivering for your retail partners. Their category is growing as a result of the introduction of your products. And we've also taken the example of the Irish whiskey. So we've shown there's a trend for a growing trend for Irish whiskey. So as from a sales and particularly sales perspective, if you know that, you can go to your buying partners and say, and you have to work for an Irish whiskey, you can say to your buying partners, look, we know that the category is growing. We know Irish whiskey is growing. There are clear opportunities here. We've got a solution for you because we've unearthed there's a gap there around high level, high cost premium spirits. And we've shown you some of the other gaps. So kind of gives you an idea on how this can be used in that way. And then just in terms of other things that could be done, again, just one of many examples, but for the category managers, you're developing and understanding a customer decision hierarchy is pretty much solely based on the attributes of the products within the categories, and then the category that's built on, and making sure that the category has a great enough representation of the different attributes is really important to make sure that your retail partners aren't losing shoppers to other retailers. So again, another example of how this could be used. So really, that's it from us. Just an overview there of what resolution is. So it does help businesses analyze and evidence or quantify what those core distinctive attributes are that a shopper sees, because it's very much a shopper's eye view of the different ranges, the different products that are in our retail world, and where there are opportunities and weaknesses to make those improvements. So if you're looking for some help on how you can make the most of your attributes, how you can understand category, the products better, we'd love to hear from you. Our contact details are here on screen. You can contact us via LinkedIn, and we'll try and reach out to anyone who's got any questions, who fires questions at us as well about this webinar. I just wanted to thank you for your time, your attention. Hope you've learned a great deal here, and we hope to hear from you soon.